So since the first time I heard about it, I've had feelings about John Searle's Chinese room thought experiment. So to be fair, I'm going to read a description of it off of Wikipedia because their description is pretty accurate, pretty solid. I have no problems with their description. But just so I don't fuck up the description, the explanation of what it is, before I get into why I think this, yeah, what my issues are. I'm gonna just read this, right? Okay. So move windows around. All right. Chinese room thought experiment. So Searle's thought experiment begins with this hypothetical premise. Suppose that artificial intelligence research has succeeded in constructing a computer that behaves as if it understands Chinese. It takes Chinese characters as input and, by following the instructions of a computer program, produces other Chinese characters, which it presents as output. Suppose, says Searle, that this computer performs its task so convincingly that it comfortably passes the Turing test. It convinces a human Chinese speaker that the program is itself a live Chinese speaker. To all of the questions that the person asks, it makes appropriate responses, such that any Chinese speaker would be convinced that they are talking to another Chinese-speaking human being. Unfortunately, we're not done yet. The question Searle wants to answer is this. Does this machine literally understand is in quotes, Chinese, or is it merely simulating the ability to understand Chinese? I don't have enough coffee. Fucking hell. Searle calls the first position strong AI and the latter weak AI. We're still not done. Searle then supposes that he is in a closed room and has a book with an English version of the computer program, along with sufficient paper, pencil, eraser, and filing cabinets. Searle could receive Chinese characters through a slot in the door, process them according to the program's instructions, and produce Chinese characters as output. If the computer had passed the Turing test this way, it follows, says Searle, that he would as well, simply by running the program manually. Searle asserts that there is no essential difference between the roles of the computer and himself in this experiment. Each simply follows a program step by step, producing a behavior, which is then interpreted by the user as demonstrating intelligent conversation. However, Searle himself would not be able to understand the conversation. I do not speak a word of Chinese, he points out. Therefore, he argues, it follows that the computer would not be able to understand the conversation either. We're still not done. Searle argues that without understanding, or intentionality, both of these are in quotes, we cannot describe what the machine is doing as thinking, also in quotes, and since it does not think, this time it's not in quotes, I'm not sure. Why not? It does not have a mind, in quotes, in anything like the normal sense of the word. Therefore, he concludes that the strong AI hypothesis is false. And thank fuck, that's over. So, oh sweet shit. I almost think he should have made it the English room because he doesn't understand English either. Anyway, no, he's whatever. Okay, so my conclusion from this is that the things that he's trying to test for aren't real things. like, oh, fuck. So, yeah, there's components to a machine, and those components do things, but no individual component does the thing that the whole machine does. That doesn't mean that the machine doesn't work. Right? Like, what? Like, what he's talking about by understand, he's expecting, like, the low level parts to understand. And so if the parts don't individually have comprehension, then the whole thing doesn't either? What? This is. I feel like this is related to the stupid knowledge equals justified true belief thing. So let me grab something. Let's see. I don't know what book this is. I also can't pull it out. Fucking hell. That book fell apart. My life is in a shambles. Like, the book literally fell the fuck apart when I pulled it out. Anyway, the point I was going to attempt to make. Should have grabbed that book. Jesus. What happened to your book? Okay, it's this. What is the value of reading books? Why do we have books? What are books for? What do books do? What do books do? They store knowledge, right? This thing can't think. It doesn't have beliefs. It doesn't have whatever's written in it is not necessarily justified. It's not necessarily true. And unless somebody reads it, they're not beliefs. So unless somebody reads this, is this knowledge? Yeah, it is. That's the whole point of a book, right? So, does this understand things? No. Does it know things? Yeah, but can it actually do anything with that knowledge? No, it's a fucking book. I think this is a problem that Searle is failing to grasp here. The reason that we have the instructions in the Chinese room and the filing cabinets and all of this is because that's where the knowledge is kept. That knowledge, when processed, is understanding. That's it. That's how simple that is. That's what books are for. That's why old people, mostly boomers, are like, oh, it's so sad that nobody reads anymore. Why are they bitching about that? Because in their world, when they were kids, that's where all the knowledge was. They're not wrong. Knowledge. But it's a book. This doesn't know shit. Except that it does. Right? So, like, the words that you're trying to use, and particularly within the philosophical tradition, where you're trying to pull off bullshit like justified true belief, this doesn't believe anything. A whole bunch of crap in here is probably not true, but if you read it, you still get knowledge of those things. Still knowledge. Right. And if it was like, say, an instruction manual on how to rebuild a car engine, which I have some of those, just not that I can grab. Yeah, that's... You can literally go through that, and as long as you're, like, paying reasonable attention and have a decent head on your shoulders, you can, like, build a car from scrap parts and not necessarily understand how you did it. Does that weaken your intelligence? Does that mean that somebody who's done it enough times that they can just do it without instructions Are they more intelligent than you? Do they have stronger intelligence than you do? Absolutely not. This is a ridiculous argument. The categories that you're trying to like force onto this are just bullshit categories. The like a socket wrench doesn't understand how to unscrew a bolt. And it can't even do it by itself. You like the process of unscrewing a bolt with a wrench it requires you to do it. Like what? I don't understand. He's trying to attribute the like full thing down to every tiny little piece of the thing. And then because that doesn't work, obviously that doesn't work, he just declares, "Oh no, it's complete bullshit." What? And I kind of feel like this is where I'm not even sure this is controversial. I kind of feel like this is where all the like quantum consciousness bullshit sort of comes from. It's like, oh well, all of the pieces have to be doing the full thing. No, no. Have you ever played checkers? One checkers piece by itself is fucking worthless. You have to have the board and the pieces and another player who knows the game. That's the only way you can play checkers. It requires all of it, and any one part by itself is insufficient. And really, even if you have almost all of the parts except for one, it still won't work. You only have one player, won't work. You're missing some pieces, won't work. You're missing the board, won't work. You need all of it in order for it to be a game of checkers. It's the same fucking thing. Right? So he has like, just because the person inside doing the following the rules doesn't understand Chinese, he's saying that the machine doesn't understand Chinese. But there's instructions that he's following. The instructions understand Chinese. There is understanding. He's just trying to make it, like, dishonestly trying to make it feel like it's bullshit. I'm not sure what his motives for this are, but, yeah, he's clearly manipulating it, trying to, and probably not even consciously, but he's, like, manipulating the situation, be like, so we put a person in there, and he still doesn't have a clue what the fuck is going on either, so it clearly doesn't work. No. 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 Knowledge. Understanding. To, once the knowledge is put into practice, that's understanding. I don't know. It's bullshit. Yeah, and I'm not even going to say that it's emergent, because it isn't. It's because that's a thing that I've seen before too. They're like, oh, one of the criticisms is that it's emergent, the understanding. No, it isn't. It's literally in the instructions. The instructions are the understanding.